dashboard graphing. So I am Divya and I'm part of ITOM technical success team. So what does performance dashboard offer in space of OPSBridge? So you have a visualized representation of your performance metric is to get an overall overview of your monitored elements from OPSBridge. So in a single pane, you could visualize your performance of your application, infrastructure elements, and your databases. So any other monitoring entities, you could visualize their performance metrics in the graph, in the form of graphs, and which can be visualized using performance dashboard. So another feature which provides is the real-time insight of your collected metrics, where you could get the visualization of your historical data as well as the real-time data. So in a single view, you could also compare the historical metrics and the real-time metrics for the same entity and visualize and compare and analyze for the selected CI type. Now, you also have a feature called overlay events where you could understand the impact of the event cost on that particular entity and check and analyze why the performance is degrading or performance is having a better options using your overlay of events. So the administrator will get to speed up the resolution by checking the graphs in the graphs according to their collected metrics. So this is what it offers from performance dashboard. And this is how the visualization looks. And there are two entities, two layouts, which we call. One is on the left pane is the view explorer, and the right pane we have a dashboard layout. So from the selected view, you will have to select a CI for which you will have to load where the dashboard gets displayed. So here is on the left panel, you could see the selected CI, one of the particular node, and for that node, the default graph gets displayed here. So you could also select different graph for that selected CI in the drop-down list. So the first dashboard which gets displayed is called the default dashboard. And if you want to select a different dashboard, so you could select it using the drop-down option here. And you have multiple rows in this dashboard displayed graph where each row has a representation of your metric values, performance metrics in the form of graphs or different types of graphs. You have line graph, bar graph, pie chart. You could also use, you could also have display of a process table. So this is how the performance perspective page looks, where on the left pane, you select a type, CI type, and then the default dashboard for that selected CI type gets displayed. So coming to the different data sources supported from performance dashboard. So what do you mean by data source? So data source is nothing but the collection of your performance metrics and stored in database or stored in a repository. So so the different types which the PD can contact and reach out and get the collected metrics and display includes these set of data sources. So site scope, cloud optimizer, BPM, APM, operations connector, COSO, and agent. So with site scope, it uses data access layer API, and then it will connect to the data store and get the performance and will display the performance metrics. Similarly, for cloud optimizer, it uses Vertica database and then fetches the results using the REST API. And for BPM, internally it connects to the operations agent installed there, and then it uses JCoda APIs to fetch the metrics from the agent, which is similar to the agent present in the operations connector, where you could get the performance metrics from different domain managers, integrations like Nagios, COM, or if you have any custom metrics or custom metrics stored as part of agent data store, you could fetch those data using JCoda APIs. And the APM environment, in APM environment, you have a URL call, which it connects to the profile DB and displays the data for BPM diagnostics, RAM and site-scope integrations. So this is the data sources supported from performance perspective, performance dashboard, where it will connect to each of the data sources using API and then displays the performance metrics. So now, so let's understand how will the dashboard get displayed. So this, first, as I said, we have a view explorer. On that view explorer, we have to select a CI to get the dashboard display. So what happens in the background is when you select a CI instance, it will actually map to the instance definition. So we have something called performance dashboard mapping for the dashboard display. So the rules will be mapped in this mapping definition. According to this definition, it will map it and then display the default graph. So here is an example. So we have, so this is a property which is CI properties of an SQL database server. So here it will match the database instance name. So we have a rule in the performance dashboard mapping for SQL database CI type. So it matches an instance definition ID with a database instance name. So this will map this key name and then select the performance, and then with this instance name, it will fetch the performance metrics and then display the default graph. So this is the assigned performance dashboards. So you can have multiple dashboards here, but whatever you have opted as a default, that will be displayed first. So this is how the dashboard display happens when you select a CI. So then let's understand one more important feature which is offered from performance dashboard mapping. So this is a special use case, a common use case where you have a computer CIs, which might be coming from Azure, or which might be coming from Cloud Optimizer, or from your Amazon providers, cloud providers. So how will you change the dashboard display? You don't want to select the drop-down option and then select a particular graph you want to view for every selected CI type. So there is a conditional setting which can be used, which is called conditional dashboard. So here it offers a particular where you could provide, or you could create some rules based on the CI properties. So here is an example which says, so this is a condition which we have used, and the condition is the discovered vendor equals Microsoft Azure. So discovered vendor is one of the CI property of your computer, and it matches the discovered vendor property. If it is equal to Azure, the default dashboard which gets displayed is Microsoft Azure Performance. So you can create such rules or such conditions. So based on your CI properties. So here is an example, and this is basically which is created for a computer CI type, because when you use Azure or Azure Management Pack, or AWS Management Pack, or your Cloud Optimizer CI, so then you might have multiple or several computer CIs. So for those CIs, you could get the default dashboard displayed using this conditional dashboard. So similarly, you could use different options, or you could match, or you could create, specify the properties here, conditions here, and then point out the default dashboard. And coming to the next topic, so this topic is real-time metric streaming. So here, as I said, PD real-time metrics data. So you can visualize and analyze the real-time data, and this data is available for 30 minutes range. And auto refresh every 5 seconds. The real-time data is supported only for two data sources, that is operations agent and site float. For operations agent, you have a condition where you will have to enable the real-time license. So this real-time license has to be enabled, where in the background you could see the component called HP sensor. If you enable the real-time license, you could see that process running, and that is the component HP sensor component, which will fetch the real-time metrics, and component PD uses that to fetch the real-time data from that HP sensor, display the data. And we also have an option of toggle button where you can analyze your historical data and real-time data in a single view or in a single dashboard pane. So if you have, here is an example quoted for a network and disk where you have historical data, and on the right side, you could have the real-time data also displayed for the same metric. So this view will be possible, or it will be available only if you have the real-time agent. And once it is enabled, you will have to restart the agent so that the HP sensor understands that it has to collect the real-time metrics. So, and coming to the important section of this presentation, here is the way where PD uses or queries the data from COSO and returns the result and shows the performance metrics. So how does the PD fetch those metrics? So before we connect or we fetch the metrics, there are few configurations which needs to be done on the OBM side. I guess this will be covered in the initial earlier presentations, where you will have to set these properties or infrastructure. These properties are available as part of infrastructure settings. So these are administration endpoints, data access endpoints, and data receiver endpoints. So basically, you are exposing that data, or you will be able to access that data using these APIs. So this is your, you will have to mention your external access host here. And so how does PD fetch the data from the COSO? So there are two APIs provided or exposed from the COSO endpoints, where PD uses these two APIs. One is for fetching the metadata. That we call it as dataset metadata API. And so we have different levels where we fetch the metrics. One is that you query the instance first, and then get the list of classes next, and then you get the next. After filtering out the classes, then you get the list of metrics. So the first API which we invoke, or which the PD invokes, is to get the entire metadata for the selected CI. And after you get the metadata, then it will actually query for the actual result set that it will be used. For that we use dataset API. So PD displays the performance metrics of any COSO elements using these two APIs. So how does the dataset metadata API work, and what does it fetch? So it fetches all the tables, the column names, or whatever the metadata. Basically, you have the entire structure for a selected CI. All will be displayed in a single screen. So this is same. And how do we get this? So for once we have the metadata ready, then how do we fetch the actual data? How do we get this data set ID? So we have an option where you could use your DB visualizer and fetch the data set ID. So this is how, if you want to query use the API and want to fetch the dataset ID, then you could directly connect to your DB visualizer and then fetch the dataset ID from there. So this is an example for metadata API where it will list all the instances, all the classes, and all the data for a selected CI. So now, so this is the same thing. So now let me demo few elements here. Okay. So as I said, it will be so this is a view explorer where we have multiple views here. You could select your view here and select a CI type. So if I select a particular CI, so then the dashboard layout displays the default graph. So how do you check whether it is a default graph or not? So that will be that you can see it based on the pin. So you have a pin here, pin mark here. So this represents the default dashboard for this selected CI. So this is how you could identify what is the default graph for this selected CI. And if you want to opt or if you want to select any other performance dashboard, you could always use this drop down and select other graph. So now okay, so there is a general property dashboard settings, which you can use this particular tool here to display and toggle. So in this, you have a general properties which is set to for all the layouts. And here there is something called event overlay. So if you want to see the events and the impact of those events on the performance metrics, so you could select and the event will be displayed on your graph. Okay, so this is a general property. Once you select, it will be available for all the settings, all the dashboards. And there are other things as well. So like auto refresh and points you could select these things. Hide controls, you could select which will hide this. And yeah, so this is dashboard settings. And so here you see the real-time toggling. So let me select one of the graphs initially. If you see here, so you have a real-time toggle button here. So let me select that. So it says, okay, it will take some time initially. So once if the real-time license is enabled on this operations agent node, then you will be able to see this data points as soon as you click this toggle button. So this is how you compare the historical and real-time for a selected CI. So this is in the you have a 30 minutes range here. So until it gets collected, so you will have a 30-minute display of the data here. Okay. So this is how you could see the historical and real time using this toggle button. Let me select another CI where license is not enabled. Sorry. Okay. So here, since the data license is not enabled, the real-time view will not work actually. So if you unselect this, so the actual historical data will get displayed. Okay, and let me come to another point. So let me select a different dashboard. I'll create a new dashboard. Here, so for this operations agent node, I have two data sources, operations agent and COSO data lake. So let me select COSO data lake. So once I select this COSO data lake, PD will call internally the dataset metadata API, and it will, for this instance, it will try to fetch the classmates. We will see the APIs later. So let me. Okay. So these are the different classes available for this operations agent selected CI. So let me select CPU, and it also lists the, sorry for the background noise, and so it lists the metric. I have selected the metric name. And important point to note for this COSO data lake. So you have different statistical functions which you can utilize, or which you can make use of. So here for this particular metric, we have average, maximum, and min statistical functions supported. So this function is available only for COSO data lake data source. So let me duplicate and let me use operations agent and use CPU. Okay, so let me select any type. So if you see this statistical function is grayed out here. So this will not be available for your other data sources. Statistical functions available only as part of COSO data lake. Yeah, so this is one key point which I wanted to mention. Well, okay, so troubleshooting steps will be covered in the next session. Let me go back and showcase one more thing. So the example, so there are some options when you click this three dots. We have that clear cache, refresh data source. So these are two important things which will help us to load the graphs when you select the CI. So there are, PD will have some cache maintained. So once you select a CI and you want, if the graph dashboard is not properly displaying the data, then it is better to just click on this clear cache, so that it clears the cache internally for this particular selected CI. And also try to run this refresh data source toggle as well. So this one, it will help to sources. So these two are sometimes are very important if to check or to run these two things before you try to check why the graph is great. So try these two steps where you can clear the cache and refresh the data sources available for the selected CI. So this is two key steps which you could follow if the graph is not properly displayed. And regarding to BVD, so one example which I wanted to quote for specifically for BVD is, so let me. Okay, so as you know, we have integrations available, so where you could forward your performance metric data from performance dashboard to BVD. So this is possible. You could forward your favorite marked graphs or performance metric. So once you save this particular graph as your favorite in the performance dashboard, then you could forward this performance metric to BVD. So how do you mark this as favorite? So there is so this is already marked as favorite. So let me take a new one. And so once you make the graph or a performance dashboard as a favorite, then only you could use that data to be forwarded to BVD. So let me select this one. See, so here is an option. So first you will have to make it to add to favorites. So just let me. So this will also get added. So once it is added, so now okay. So now you should share this graph, and as well as you should save this as public. So once you save this graph as public, so then these two performance metric data will be available in your BVD data channels. So this is how you mark the performance dashboard graph as favorite, and from favorite you could share it as public. Then you will have this metric available as part of your BVD data channel data. Yeah, so this is all which I wanted to cover, and let me take you. Okay, so this is the infrastructure setting which I wanted to showcase, where you set your endpoints, that is administration, data access, and data receiver. So three endpoints which need to be set in case you want to use the APIs externally. If you don't want to use the APIs externally, then you don't have to change these APIs. So internally, it will use the data broker component, and then it will draw the graphs. So if you want to use the APIs externally, then it makes it a point to change the administration endpoint and data access endpoint to point to the external host. But the point is, data receiver endpoint has to be set, because this will be used for your metric streaming component. So this has to be set. Data receiver endpoint has to be set. Okay. So now let me take few examples from the APIs. This is an example where I use the dataset metadata or a CI. So initially it will take some time to display the entire dataset metadata for the selected CI type. So yeah, so this is how it gets displayed, and this is in the format of JSON. So you could select this and view it in a JSON viewer. So this is how, so all the metadata and its columns, tables, everything will be fetched from this API. Yeah, so this covers the performance dashboard for today's presentation. And for troubleshooting, we'll be covering it in the next session. So let me know if you have any queries, any questions, and I'll be there in the monitoring the chat for any lab exercises issues. Yeah.
Okay. There were some questions from Dinesh. Is it possible to have CPU memory utilization of a set of servers in a single dashboard in OBM?
No. So we use CI comparison. So in that comparison session, you will have to select the set of servers. So yeah, let me showcase that. So there is an option where you could visualize only the related CI performance. So let me select few metrics. So it will offer the list of comparison related metrics. So I have selected 2 nodes. Let me select 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is called CI comparison related metrics. So you could select the list of CIs which you want to compare, and then create a new performance dashboard. These are the selected CIs, and for that selected CIs, you could use, or you could, If you want to select any dashboard, any metric which you are interested in for all those CI types, this is what available as part of. So let me get to there. So it will fetch, yeah. So this is what is available for the comparison.
There was another question about the real-time license. Is it separate SKU, or maybe you don't know about license, but
No, I'm not sure on that.
okay. Maybe Steve Hewitt can answer.
It used to be a separate license. Now it's just part of your agent licensing or site scope licensing.
Thank you.
There are some steps to enable that within the agent because it's not turned on by default. So
yes, this is something you need to remember. It's not turned on by default, and you will need to do it in your labs.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So we can stop the recording, Divya?
Yeah, fine. I'm done with it. Thanks,
okay.
everyone.
Thank you very much.